Hello, well, there's an interview here with Russell Brand and some whistleblower, um, ex-intelligence agency UK, and he's talking about. I was watching this, and I was thinking he's talking about the image of the beast, and this would be a really good video to explain what it all it is the character of the nations. This is the beast that you shouldn't be adoring. Yeah. It's explained here by this guy.
The inability of ordinary people to influence what governments do to affect their relationships with big business. In this episode, we're looking at my conversation with Khan Ross, former government insider turned whistleblower, who tells us explicitly how government operates and
involved in the Iraq WMD issue. I helped set up the Weapons Inspection Agency, the UN Weapons Inspection Agency. I was deeply versed in the intelligence about WMD.
Khan Ross worked with the British government and intelligence services some time ago and was in government at the time of the Iraq war, speaking about his experiences working that closely with people in power in this important episode of history.
Okay, so neither of these two have worked out that the media faked 9/11, yeah, with the powers that be, and the broadcast. So who are the problem here? The problem really is the mainstream media. None of these two will mention that, but never mind. We'll ignore that for now.
Where we found out really the kind of decisions that are made, what information will be used and neglected in order.
I should just say that all of the strike footage of the planes hitting the towers on 9/11 was supplied by MSM and CGI experts that worked for the mainstream media. Some of them were, like the editors of.
For government imperatives to be met, the implications or ramifications, of which are still being felt to this day. Here he is talking about that.
And so I was extremely familiar with the case that the government was making for war, and knew immediately that its case was, to put it politely, grossly exaggerated. But also, and I think this was an important thing that's often ignored, that the government had ignored alternatives to war. And that's a basic moral requirement of war, that it's only the last resort. And I had written papers on what an alternative to war might be. And so I knew that the government, had not taken those seriously.
All of us know that there were lies around the weapons of mass destruction situation, but to hear someone who worked in the government.
After there were lies around how the towers came down, which was controlled demolition.
Speaking from a human
Thanks for telling us that, Russ.
Perspective about the way that power operates, I think this is a unique insight. And some of the conclusions,
what they're doing, a lot of them are very well-intentioned people, a lot of them anarchists, because I think it's
philosophies of power.
The experience of being around people in government, ministers, prime ministers, presidents, that it's one of the reasons I became an anarchist, because I think it's all a bit of a myth that these folks are really impressive and competent and know what they're doing. A lot of them are very well-intentioned people, a lot of them are competent, but we put them on a pedestal and we want to believe they are heroic, that they have some.
He forgot to mention their puppets. Puppets would have been a good word to use.
Some kind of
or careerists, or both.
Access to truth and reason that the rest of us don't have, and I never really saw that.
What I think is fascinating about what Khan Ross is saying there, and he's concluding to become an anarchist, and just to unpack that for a moment, anarchism doesn't mean chaos, it means centralised power is abolished and democracy.
Yeah, I'll let him tell you. Anarchist doesn't mean chaos, it does mean centralisation of power. So we're talking here about a new system, or no system, I should say, which is I'm a libertarian. I don't believe in the concept of the state at all. I withdraw my implied consent from the entire concept.
I began to think that it's constructed on ideas which are not humane. The idea of national interests, which are by their very nature regarded as amoral. States are allowed to do things that individuals are not allowed to do. Above all, commit violence. States have a monopoly of violence.
This conversation with Khan Ross is where I understood a really important thing about power, that all laws are underwritten by the idea of violence. This is something that we've also discussed with Brad Evans. Parking zones.
Yeah.
Is secondary power, which Khan points out there, are not
Let's just get to this guy.
And I saw what it's capable of, and I saw the way it made people behave, and I think one side, and I saw what it's capable.
Ultimately, if you step out of a line with the state's agenda, in order to incarcerate you.
I reject the state-based system because I saw it from the inside, and I saw what it's capable of, and I saw the way it made people behave, and I think one of the most disturbing things I felt about it was that, you know, I wanted to regard people like me and my colleagues as decent people, and in many ways they are decent people. I thought to myself,
these are those who work for the beast and his image.
As a decent person, and yet
Resign.
you are put in a framework that allows you to do terrible things, and this is the history of moral crimes.
We've just passed laws in the UK where just about every government agency is now above the law. It can do anything. You know, even the most ridiculous agency is like capable of killing you if it wants to, and it's got complete immunity. They've gone power crazy.
Usually people are put in circumstances that makes them behave badly. People are not innately evil. They wouldn't otherwise choose to do evil things. But you put even decent...
This is why I'm on the canal system, because the canal system is a subculture. The police don't police it. We don't have the police down here ever, you know, and we just look after police ourselves, and we make a point of being, you know, really friendly. We'll say hello to everyone. We say hello to each other. We're just it's a great subculture, and it proves that we can do it without any of this. We don't need any of it. Yeah? None of it. It's all got to go.
People in the kind of circumstance and structure where they can do bad things, and bad things follow.
Hannah Arendt's work unpacks that articulately and continues to be influential to this day. Her analysis of the Nazis and the concentration camps that were run by them point out that the crimes were committed.
As it did for so many people, it was an epic failure of the sort of thing I was paid to do. You know, I was our Middle East expert at the...
He's saying it was an epic failure of intelligence, and, you know, he's looking at him and he's looking at him, and they're both thinking, we're playing along with the biggest crime in history here. Yeah?
UN Security Council, and we utterly failed in, you know, the state's basic duty, which was to protect the population. And then, once that failure had happened, I saw the state, in particular Washington, construct a new way to legitimize itself by finding an enemy, almost any enemy, in order to prove its necessity to a population that was other.
Everything's a rich man's trick. Yeah, the guy in there told you, it's a very good documentary, but he told you that the state will always supply an enemy. Albert Pike told you that the state will supply both your enemy and your hero. I mean, they will, I should say, on behalf of the state. 3-3. 2.
Otherwise would doubt its need for a state that had failed to protect it. And I saw the construction of that narrative from the very beginning. I was with the US government right after 9/11, and for the days following I went to the State Department for weeks afterwards to talk about Iraq, and we saw how the narrative on Iraq began to shift, and I saw my own government go with it and fail to question it, and it was an extraordinary experience.
Robin Cook questioned it, yeah. He said that the Al-Qaeda was a CIA database. He said that in The Guardian, and then he fell off the side of a mountain. Remember? Yeah, no, you're not going to mention that. So people did question it, but they ended up dead.
Experience to see how a government and a state adapted itself to a circumstance where it was required to prove itself. And I realized that states behave in a way that isn't rational.
See, is an ego in there.
That is ultimately driven by a need to prove the necessity of their own existence.
In a sense, the only thing...
Okay, so that's true. So what they do is they create all these nightmare... You know, they blow everything out of proportion, like COVID and like the war threat from Islamic extremism, everything, because they desperately need us to believe we need them when we don't.
Their own sets of interests which are ulterior, and the state is one such institution. above all, states and the people who work in it, and I knew this because I had worked in it, want to feel that they are necessary. And sometimes they have to prove it, and war, I'm afraid to say, is one of the ultimate ways that the state proves its necessity.
We did a video recently on Joe Biden and the forever war, the distinction between powerful assumption about the nature of human beings in itself, isn't it? That we
without authority, we would return to a state of nature which is essentially violent.
That's a powerful assumption about the nature of human beings in itself, isn't it? That we are malevolent. It's a cynical worldview. So whether you're again, a Democrat or Republican, a liberal or a conservative, the worldview that applies is that human beings need to be controlled, that we're incapable of control.
Yeah, we do just fine by ourselves here on the canal system, us 22,000 people that live on boats. So it's we're proof. We are the proof. That's what I came here to do, to prove that we don't. We can live in anarchy.
With the sort of legislation that's being passed and the kind of decisions that are being made today.
Real anarchy of a violent kind where we'd all kill each other, where life is nasty, brutish and short, as Hobbes put it. And I don't believe that people are really like that, and that the claim that we have to have coercive authority to control us to stop that happening, I think is at best an untested claim. And at worst, it's an utter fallacy which we're foolish to believe.
I suppose that's why I bang on about spirituality a lot, because spirituality, I suppose, has a few principles in it, sort of vaguely speaking, and how else can you speak about such matters? We are all interconnected, we have a common destiny together. The values we should be promoting are kindness, cooperation, togetherness, unity, service, humility, basic, simple, nursery rhyme stuff, really, for things that are forgotten. But all of them are undergirded by the idea that we as human beings are basically decent or capable of decency, not incapable of it. Not that the only thing that's holding us back from becoming savage beasts and monsters is a sort of a draconian and authoritarian state. If the solution is worse than the problem, then, you know, as has been brought up around other issues, then you need to look at the solution.
After 9/11, you saw people in New York behave in a way that was extraordinary and tremendously moving, and the diametric opposite of the way the government was behaving. The government was saying threat, aggression, we must take revenge. The people, as far as I saw, including, you know, survivors from the disaster, from the attacks, behaved with tremendous compassion, and it was a profoundly moving thing to witness.
Okay, did you get that? Because that is, those people who he is describing there are the ones who did not worship and adore the image, the character of the beast. Of the beast is, you know, is the character of the nation state, the powerful nation state. Here we go in Daniel 7, just to remind you, this is from a Christian perspective. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all of this. This is just, I'm just telling you what a beast is here. Daniel 7:23, the fourth beast shall be a fourth kingdom upon the earth. So these beasts are kingdoms. Yeah, and we're told that the head of the image, or the first one here, the lion with the eagle's wings, in its, at least in its first prophetic instance, is Babylon. Okay, so the head of gold. So these, and how are we told these beasts behave? They behave like beasts. Okay, so beasts, we're told, are kingdoms. They can be kings or kingdoms. So that's microcosm or macrocosm. Like Jacob became Israel, one man became a nation. That's microcosm or macrocosm. So we're supposed to think of, it makes you think of them as to their character, and as to their affections. And if we look at Psalm 73, this is a good psalm to describe for you the image of the beast and what it actually means, because it's all explained for you here. For as I was envious and foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked, for there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. They are not troubled as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Therefore pride comforteth them about as a chain, violence covereth them as a garment. So pride and violence, that's two characteristics of the image of the beast, as you'll see. Their eyes stand out with fatness. So we've got pride, violence and greed. They have more than their hearts could wish, gluttony. They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily. They set their mouths against the heavens, and their tongue walketh through the earth. Therefore his people return hither, and waters of a cup are wrung out to them. And they say, how doth God know? And is there knowledge in the Most High? ? Behold, these are the ungodly who prosper in the world. They increase in riches. Yeah? Verily I have cleansed my heart in vain and washed my hands in innocency. For all day long I have been plagued and chastened every morning. If I say I will speak thus, behold, I should offend against thy generation of thy children. When I thought to know this, it was too painful for me. Until I went into the sanctuary of God, then I understood their end. He's been enlightened, and this is their end. Surely thou didst set them in slippery places. Thou castest them down to destruction. How they are brought into desolation, as in a moment they are utterly consumed with terrors. Yeah, moment of death. As a dream when one awaketh, so, O Lord, when thou awaketh, thou shalt despise their image. You shall despise their character, their image. Image means character. Thus my heart was grieved, and I was pricked with my veins. So foolish was I and ignorant. I was a beast before thee. Nevertheless, I am continually with thee. Thou hast holden me by my right hand. Thou shalt guide me with counsel, and afterwards receive me to glory. So basically, he's saying here, the psalmist is saying that he was envious of the wicked and the prosperity of the wicked, I should say, and he was ignorant. Therefore, he was a beast before God until he became enlightened, and then understood that this is they're just having a temporary victory because their end is destruction. But it's explaining here, that the image of the beast is, violence, prideful violence, oppression, and all these things listed here. So that is the same, and that's basically the same as these beasts here. These beasts are described as devouring much flesh. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all beasts before it. These are beasts. This is the character of nations. This is what this guy is talking about in this video when he's saying that we the people are far more moral than these beasts. And anyone who would adore the image of the beast? Who? Well, very few people supported the Iraq war, but that is adoring or supporting. Don't do it, Don't do it. I think the main problem is that we got it. Well, the main problem is the media, because it says there is no rest night or day for those who adore the beast and his image. And what do the media do? We got 24/7 rolling coverage. We know the people that played along. We know who are the ones who are trying to make us adore and worship the image of the beast. It's CNN. It's the people on CNN. It's the people on the BBC. It's the people on the mainstream media. These are those. It's the 24/7 rolling coverage. No rest night or day for those who work for the beast and his image. Yeah, and who are we up against? It's the media. So there we go. Bible prophecy and reality agree.